The combat left a large crater in the ground, right next to the orphanage dormitories, and in the middle of the crater were Vikir and Saya. While the curtain of smoke was disappearing and Saya was lying on her knees on the ground, Vikir began to stare at her and raised his sword. Vikir clenched his fist tightly, making the blade of the Beelzebub sword begin to shine. The eyes of our boy began to shine, and with a killer gaze, he swung the sword forcefully, making it gradually start advancing towards Saya. Saya was too wounded to defend herself. She lowered her head ready to face the cruel fate. But then something happened, and strands of red hair began to float. As Vikar's sword was slowly approaching Saya's head with speed, Rose stepped in between and while looking at the ground, extended her hands. Vikar's attention was fixed on her, and his eyes widened in surprise and confusion. Originally, the undead were very jealous of what they did not have, so they had the nature to bite and blindly attack living beings. Rose did not even look Vikir in the eyes. Despite being an undead, she seemed to have some awareness. Our boy observed her carefully and noticed that she was different from the others. Saya was kneeling on the ground, paralyzed by the mana backlash. Vikar's gaze was fixed on her. He did not know why the corpse queen and this woman had lost their will to fight. At that moment, a brilliant light focused on the area where they were, and a guard mentioned that they had found the intruders. Upon hearing this, Vikar's eyes widened in surprise and fear. He did not know what was happening or why they had been discovered. He went on alert, began to turn around, and with a serious gaze realized that it was Sadie's voice and that the guards had arrived. While our boy was distracted, Rose took the opportunity to grab Saya, who had lost consciousness. She extended her hand toward the sky and activated a spell, making blue energy appear around them. Feeling this, Vikar's eyes began to shine with hatred and rage. He knew he could not waste any more time. With a furious gaze, he turned around and, while staring intently at Rose with a determined expression, clenched his fists and prepared to finish her off, knowing that he could not let them escape. Vikar's attention was not to attack Rose but Saya, precisely swinging the Beelzebub sword, and the blade of the sword began to advance towards Saya. But just before the attack could reach her, Rose embraced Saya and placed herself in between, causing Vikar's sword to pierce her back. The attack was so powerful that blood began to emerge from her mouth. And little by little she started to lose consciousness. But this was more than enough since the spell fully activated and both disappeared from the place. Vikir began to observe the trace of energy and could not help but feel furious. Someone wearing heels stomped the ground forcefully. It was Professor Sadie and the armed guards. While the light was focusing on Vikir, she placed one foot on the ground, started touching her head, and with a smile, asked the night bloodhound to show himself. It was already midnight when Sadie and the armed guards arrived at the area where the crater was, but Vikir had been quick and disappeared from the place. She put her hands on her waist and mentioned that there was no one here. She began to gaze at the ground and murmured, calling Vikir a pig. The attention of one of the guards standing beside her focused on her. He started observing her and couldn't help but fall into confusion. Sadie lost her composure, clenched her teeth, and launched a powerful kick toward the crater. She was furious because they had arrived late, and the night bloodhound had fled the place. Now Sadie wore a patch over one of the eyes that Vikir had taken from her. While she was trying to understand how this had happened, something caught her attention, making her eyes widen in surprise. In the middle of the crater was Vikar's mask lying on the ground. This made Sadie even angrier, knowing that he had fled. The reality was that Vikir transformed into a dog and left the area. Now he had already moved quite far from the orphanage dormitories. He started running at full speed and couldn't help but smile. The next day the sun rose and the rays began to hit against the academy windows. Anna clenched her fist and with an excited gaze mentioned that after the exams, the great event of the academy arrived. The festival season was about to begin. In front of her were Vikir, Dolores, Sinclair, Bianca, Tudor, Piggy, and Sancho. Anna began to observe them and with a smile explained that this year's festival concept for the academy was something different. There was a coat rack cart with clothes. Anna's eyes widened with joy. She began to point at the clothes with her hand and, with an excited smile, revealed that this year's concept was a haunted house. Upon hearing this, Sinclair's eyes filled with excitement. She clasped her hands together and couldn't help but smile since it was Halloween. And now that they were free from the difficult exams, the event was going to attract a lot of attention. Dolores put her hand over her mouth and her eyes widened in surprise and excitement. She couldn't help but blush, thinking that dressing up as a ghost was going to be fun. Bianca started touching her chin with her finger and with a confused gaze said that the Academy Festival did not have this tradition. Tudor, who was next to her and had his arms crossed, turned towards her and with a curious expression thought that she was right. Piggy's eyes were full of tranquility. He turned towards Sancho and mentioned that it was an ancient tradition from which not even the professors could escape. Sancho's eyes began to shine with excitement. He cracked his fingers and with a smile said that traditions were important. Anna took out 2 boxes and with a cheerful smile decided that it was time to draw lots to see who was going to dress up as what kind of ghost. Sinclair and Dolores began to talk among themselves. The vicar, who was behind with crossed arms, began to observe in silence. He lowered his head and with a worried expression began to gaze at the ground and sank into his thoughts. Vicar remembered the moment when Rose had stepped in the way and had received the attack, saving Sayre. The 8th corpse was the corpse Queen Sayre, and not killing the 8th corpse when she couldn't even use half of her powers had been a very big mistake. He began to remember the Hounds of Baskerville. In his battle against the demon Andromelius he had to receive help from the Knights of the Family. Then he remembered his battle against Dantalion, in which he and Dolores were present. Vicar was a high-ranking graduate, but he did not know if he could face the 8th corpse by himself when she was at full power. In the end, to hunt demons one by one, he needed to fully learn the 7th and complete technique of the Baskervilles and reach the level of Swordmaster. Vicar began to imagine a book and 2 molars hidden in his mouth, the 10th technique, stalking ambush, called the 6th Fang horizontal ambush twin teeth of wisdom. One had to understand the strange principle between the 6th and 7th techniques and be able to use the ultimate annihilation technique. And the theory behind the 6th and 7th techniques was written in the book Swordsmanship. To overcome the wall of the 6th technique, one had to abandon all human emotions. And to learn the 7th technique, one had to recover their human emotions. In his past life, Vicar's body was full of scars. Yet he still did not understand why one needed to recover emotions that had just been abandoned. Realizing that this required a completely different approach compared to the training methods of basic level graduates, where one learned to kill emotions and become hounds. Vicar placed his hand under his jaw and began imagining his father, Hugo, unsheathing his sword and surrounded by powerful mana. The mind of our boy filled with confusion. He did not know how Hugo had become a sword master. While he was distracted, Dolores approached Anna and took out a drawing lot. Her attention was fixed on it and her eyes expanded in surprise. Vicar came out of his trance, turned to her and couldn't help but become curious. Dolores brought the drawing a lot closer, began to observe it, and revealed that she had to dress up as Night Hound. Anna put her hand over her mouth and her eyes widened with concern upon remembering that the Night Bloodhound had recently attacked the Quo Vadis family's orphanage. With a sad expression, she apologized, saying it was her fault. But to her surprise, Dolores said there was no problem and that she was going to do it. She put the drawing lot on her chest, closed her eyes, and couldn't help but blush. Deep down she was in love with the Night Hound. Anna turned to Vicar and with a smile said it was his turn, asking him to hurry up and choose since he was the center of attention. Vicar started touching his cheek with his hand and couldn't help but feel confused. He put his hand inside the box and seeing that everyone was having fun with this reminded him that they were all still young. He took out a drawing lot and upon seeing what he had to dress up as, his eyes filled with fear, he began to stare at it in silence. He didn't know how he had gotten this. Dolores turned her back on everyone. While on the other side, Anna and Sinclair became curious, asking what he had obtained. Bianca also appeared, placed her hands on their heads, and also became curious to know what Vicar was going to dress up as. Our boy remained silent, not knowing what was happening. There was one thing that Vicar had completely forgotten from his past, the tradition during the Academy Festival. The day of the festival arrives. Dee and everyone at the Academy dressed up. It was night time, and the atmosphere was relaxing and fun. Somewhere in the festival there was a beer bar. Several students gathered together and with excited smiles clenched their fists and began to cheer. In the bar was Tudor, disguised as a Valkyrie, while holding a rose in his mouth. He extended his hand and with a joyful gaze asked the beautiful lady if she would like to share poems and alcohol with him in Lucan's bar. Sancho was also there, disguised as a cook. While holding a plate with one hand, he began to stir the stew with a spoon, and with a smile welcomed everyone to Lucan's bar, promising that he would give a free portion of hot-blooded stew to all who came to the bar. It was a dish that could make a warrior's blood boil. The lady there was dressed as a vampire. Her eyes were full of joy. She placed her hand over her chest and with a smile said that the customers were going to brighten up the bar, and that she would be waiting for all those who wanted to come. Piggy was dressed as a fairy, his eyes widened in embarrassment and he couldn't help but blush. He approached the customers and with a nervous expression asked them to take this brochure. Seeing that Lucan had such a cute girl, the students couldn't help but blush and their eyes widened in surprise. One of them reached out to take the brochure and nervously asked what the name of this precious fairy was. Just then, Bianca, who was dressed as Frankenstein, appeared and rested her shoulders on those of the two students. With a serious gaze, she told them that they could not flirt with the bar members. Seeing this, with a nervous gaze, the two apologized. While Bianca was distracted, someone wearing a red dress entered the bar. Her attention fixed on them, and her eyes widened in confusion. She didn't know what was happening. There were already several customers enjoying a good meal in the bar, and there was also Dollars who was the waitress. Someone wearing red heels started walking towards her, creating tension. Someone caught President Dollars' attention. The eyes of Dollars, who was carrying a tray with a pitcher of beer and was dressed as the Night Bloodhound, widened in surprise and curiosity. She turned around to see who it was. Once she turned around, she couldn't help but feel somewhat disappointed and confused. It was Professor Vincy Mogg, who was dressed as a woman. With a confused gaze, Dollars asked what Vincy Mogg wanted from her. The professor crossed his arms and with a serious expression asked what was going on with that costume. Dollars became curious and turned around. Vincy Mogg extended his hand to the side and mentioned that he knew it was a festival, but he was sure that she had thought about how her disguise would impact society. He asked how she could pass herself off as that atrocious, uncontrollable criminal. With her eyes filled with determination, she hesitated for a second, but then said that she liked this disguise. Upon hearing this, Vincy Mogg began to stare at her silently. He turned to the side, closed his eyes, extended his hand, and decided to let her take responsibility for her actions. He could be her academic advisor, but he had no authority to tell her what she could or could not do, so she could do whatever she wanted. Dollars remained silent, not knowing what to say. Tudor's attention was fixed on them, and his eyes widened with curiosity. He placed one hand on his waist, extended the other, and asked what Vincy Mogg was doing here. Sancho crossed his arms and continued observing in silence. Peggy's attention was fixed on them, and with a serious gaze, he mentioned that during the festival, the teachers dressed up and went to their class and club booths to increase their earnings. They started to converse among themselves. Vincy Mogg crossed his arms, and his eyes began to shine with rage, since if it weren't for this disguise, he wouldn't have come here. And besides, the prices of the dishes were not that good. A few minutes later, Dollars, who was holding a tray with food, appeared, and with a calm gaze mentioned that she had brought the potatoes and roasted chicken that he had ordered. Vincy Mogg remained silent, pondering. Dollars placed the food on the table. There was a plate of French fries, roasted chicken, and stew. Vincy Mogg's attention was fixed on the food. He noticed that the quality of the ingredients was poor, and that the dishes were made by someone who was not certified in food safety. These dishes were poorly prepared and full of MSG. Using a spoon, he prepared himself to taste the stew. He had no expectations, thinking that the food was going to taste like garbage. He tasted the stew and was paralyzed. Dollars, who was standing in front of the table with her arms on her abdomen, began to observe attentively, waiting to see what his opinion about the food would be. The look of Professor Vincy Mogg faded, and his eyes expanded in surprise and confusion, making him sweat. His attention was fixed on the food. He did not know why it was so good. He began to imagine the roasted chicken shining and looking delicious. The exquisite smoky flavor and the salty taste emerged from the meat when it was torn apart. And the potatoes that came from the Mogg family's region released a delicious flavor as they gently crumbled. He struck the table forcefully, and with a furious gaze. He began to stare at her and demanded to know who had prepared the food, believing that they had recruited an external chef. Reptcom extended her hand to one side and with a serene gaze mentioned that the chef was one of the members of the club. She was sure that Vainsy Mogg knew the chef well. Inside the bar's kitchen there was a witch in front of the grill. They wore red lipstick. It was none other than Vikia who was dressed as a witch. With a serious gaze, he began to observe the food and began to move the pan. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part,